Hi Hugo Reed, welcome back. I have a few books for you today. Let's start with Margaret's Unicorn. I think the pictures in this book are really pretty. There's another one on the back. Let's look at the back here. It says, "My whole world changed the day I found a baby unicorn tangled in the weeds and thorns." So it gives us a little idea of what the book is about. And it's by Briannie May Smith. This name, Briannie, looks to me like it could be Irish. Let's look in the back. Do you know if you go to the back cover of the book, usually it'll tell about the author and sometimes the illustrator, and actually this only has one name, so she must be both. She must be the author and the illustrator, and it does. It talks about it. Let's see what it says about her. It says, Briannie May Smith spent her childhood searching for fairies in her garden and kept a keen eye out for the magical and mythical. She would have loved a baby unicorn, which would have enabled her to read past bedtime with the help of its magical horn. As a grown-up, she still watches the hills and clouds, hoping to meet a unicorn before it leaves for its winter grazing. She's illustrated many books. She lives in a little cottage in the countryside of Devon, England. So she's English. All right, here we go. Margaret's Unicorn. Wow, look at that. That looks pretty, doesn't it? So we know it's taking place not in the city, but out in the country. Their houses look a little different probably than your house looks. My whole world changed when we moved to a faraway place, to a cottage in the mountains to be near Grandma. Everything smelled different and strange, and the house was full of empty spaces. If some of you moved into a new house and everything was empty when you got there. That first afternoon, Dad said, "Margaret, why don't you go exploring? By the time you come back, your mom and your new room will look just like your old room, I promise." Mom put hot chocolate in the thermos. "Be careful not to go further than the big stone," she said, and gave me a kiss. Wow, she has a pretty cool neighborhood to go exploring, doesn't she? How do you think she's feeling? I think maybe a little bit excited and a little bit nervous and a little bit sad about her old house, probably lots of things. When I reached the old big stone at the end of our garden, I saw the sea spread open before me. A heavy fog was traveling through the sky, and soon the water was covered in mist. No, that wasn't mist, it was clouds. No, they weren't clouds, they were white horses. No, not horses, unicorns. They were leaping into the air, swept up by the wind, and then in a blink, they were gone. Do you think she really saw unicorns? Let's see. I started to run back to tell Mom and Dad when I heard a sniffling sound. I tiptoed closer and closer down a little dip where something lay tangled in the woods. "A baby," I gasped. Carefully, I freed him and then wrapped him in my coat. When I got home, Grandma was at the door. She'd come by to help us unpack. "I didn't think there were any of those left," she said. I told her all about the herd that had flown past me. "When I was a girl," she said, smiling, "we would watch the unicorns fly off to Unicorn Island on the last summer wind." Grandma told me everything she knew about unicorns. They only eat flowers, but there aren't enough here to feed them all year around. Every spring, I would wait for them to come back to the young heather and thistles that grow on the mountains. I looked out our cottage window. There were hardly any flowers to be seen. What will I feed him? I asked. Grandma thought for a moment. Let's go, she said. We jumped into the car and headed to town. Look where they're going. At a small shop, we bought bunches of flowers for my unicorn. Wonder what that shopkeeper is thinking. Think she has unicorns coming very often? When we got home, we fed him. What do unicorns drink? I asked Grandma. Water that has been touched by the moonlight, she explained. That's what makes their horns glow in the dark. That's what gives them their magic. I stroked my unicorn's mane, and Grandma and I fished pillows out of the moving boxes to make him a cozy nest near my bed. Mom and Dad had finished unloading the boxes. They came in to find us with my little unicorn. Mom knelt beside him and he nuzzled her hand. He was friendly to everybody. That night, Dad and I pulled on our boots and headed out to the hills. As soon as the moon touched the stream, we filled our buckets with water and carried them home. The water glowed in our dark garage. My unicorn drank as we watched him amazed. See him drinking the glowing water there? When I went to sleep, I let the little unicorn crawl into bed with me, and I stroked his speckled coat. My unicorn whimpered. I was so excited to have found him, I'd forgotten how scared he must be. It's okay, I whispered. Spring will be back in no time. Think he's missing his unicorn family? I think maybe so. Oh, look at the shadows. It's coming through all dappled. The next day, my unicorn and I went for a walk. We crunched through the leaves and caught them as they floated down from the trees. I picked up a horse chestnut, opened it carefully, and touched it soft inside, which felt like a little fairy fur coat. Can you see the horse chestnuts here? And inside the little seeds, they're like furry too. That evening, we watched the stars come out before heading back to bed. They seemed so much brighter here than in our old town. You know, sometimes if you go more away from the city, the stars seem brighter because you don't have as much light of the city, and I bet that's what's happening here. They're seeming so bright because she's probably in a smaller town. By the time all the trees were bare, my little unicorn had grown comfortable in our cottage. One of our favorite things to do was to go to the beach and chase the waves. The white foam looked like the unicorns rolling and disappearing into the sandy shore. Then we'd race home with cold fingers and toes and hooves. So it sounds like it's getting to be winterish, right? She's kind of giving us clues about what season it is. A fire, I'd tell my unicorn, is the best thing to cozy up to. We'd curl up together and listen to the rain, tap, tap, tap on the window. Isn't that the loveliest sound, I'd say? At Christmas, we decorated the tree. And the house was filled with smells of our old home. When you bake the same foods, it would smell like your house smelled before, right? When it snowed for the first time, my unicorn was dazzled by it and by how quiet everything became. We walked down the road and stomped on the frozen puddles. Together, we made a snow unicorn. Dad broke off an icicle that hung from the roof and gave it a crystal horn. I was missing our old home less and less. That's a pretty smart way to make a unicorn, isn't it? I like to make snowmen. Have you guys done that? The weather grew warmer and I saw buds appear on the trees. The green shoots started to push up through the ground. Look, they have some flowers too, don't they? So it's giving us a clue about what season it's getting to be. Yellow gorse and dandelion flowers started to bloom in the hills. Soon I knew my unicorn's family would come back and he would leave. So look at this word. It says yellow gorse. That's not a flower that I'm familiar with. I don't think that one grows here. When a unicorn is your friend, you wish spring would stay far away. She doesn't want him to leave, does she? Oh, look what's coming. On the first day of spring, as we sat on the hill, the unicorns floated down from the sky like snowflakes. Ooh. That's a cool picture. Slowly, one of them, with chocolate brown eyes and a soft pink nose, drew close. My unicorn skipped towards her and leaned against her for a while. Leaned against her white coat. He muzzled her cheek. I knew this must be his mother. It was time to say goodbye to my unicorn. Please don't forget me, I whispered into his silky ear as I hugged him tightly. Oh, look at the unicorn looking at her. It was my unicorn. Oops, I think we missed a page, sorry. It's a new book and they're sticky. Here we go. We know what's gonna happen next though, don't we? Now spring had come and gone and the days had grown longer. I made some new friends, but I still do miss my unicorn. On the day we went walking over the hills, Mom and Dad and Grandma and my friend Abby and me, as Abby and I searched for bugs in the tall grass, something nudged my arm and I turned in surprise. It was my unicorn. He had grown so much already and lost his baby coat. When he raised his head, he was taller than me, wild and beautiful. I plucked a sprig of heather from its stem and held it out in my palm. Cautiously, my unicorn ate from my hand, watching me with his dark eyes. His ears flicked back and forth, listening to all around him. I wanted to reach out and touch him. Do you think she will? Let's see. He took one more flower, then he must have heard something, or maybe I moved too quickly, because he turned and galloped away in an instant. I scrambled a few paces after him and watched him disappear into the mountains. He was gone. He is a lot bigger, isn't he? I bet she's feeling a lot of feelings now, too. Surprised, so happy to see him, so sad to see him go. I turned to Abby, who looked on in amazement. It's an old friend, I said. Mom called and it was time to head through the heather and the thistles to our cottage in the mountain. The end. Wow. Did you ever think about if you had a unicorn, maybe you wouldn't be able to keep it forever? Margaret's unicorn. That was a good one. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, Hugo Reed.